would like to welcome everyone here this evening to our City Commission meeting. And the way this works, we're first going to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll continue with the meeting.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business, we have a consent agenda. Trust you've all seen that, and do we have a motion to approve?
I move we approve.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is passed. On our regular agenda, item number 3, we have consider a request to close Main Street from 5th to 8th Street, 6th Street from Oak to Poplar, Broadway from the alley east of Main and alley west of Main, and 7th Street from Main to the alley west of Main on May 6, 2023 for the Newton Car Show.
Commissioners, you have the request in your packet, and this is an annual event that happens. The staff has been given this information, and there are no issues from staff on this.
I move that we approve it, Mayor.
I'll second.
Okay, there is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is passed. Next item, we're going to receive a request from Habitat for Humanity to waive fees associated with building a home at 502 North Columbus. Kelly or Suzanne?
Mayor, I will take that if I may.
Okay.
Before you this evening in your agenda packet was a letter of request from the Habitat for Humanity Board of Directors to request a waiver of fees. This is something that we have a precedent for, and you have done about 5 or 6 years in a row now. They will be building their new home at 502 North Columbus. And in your packet, there was a listing of the fees that they're requesting a waiver of. Typically, this is between $2,500 and $3,000. Some of that's going to depend on the size of home and those types of things as well, but this is a very good estimate for you. We estimate it'll be just under $2,800. And in the past, your direction to us has been, recall that engineering operates out of the general fund, and these fees are what goes to pay the engineering staff and the inspectors and those kinds of things. So you have directed us in the past to reimburse the general fund, specifically the engineering budget, from the economic development funds for this amount of money. Staff would recommend that you would approve this request.
I would move we approve the request from Habitat for Humanity.
I'll second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is passed.
Thank
And then next item on the agenda is we're going to consider the dates for sale and discharge of fireworks for 2023. Denise?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I have given you the dates of, for the last couple years for sale and discharge, and every year you have to establish the date for discharge and sale, as well as the application fee and the performance bond fee. This year, July 4th falls on a Monday. The weekend before that would be the 1st through the 4th. I will let you know that I did send out information to all of the vendors that had purchased or that had stands this last year, and I received a comment back, which I believe from Brian Donnelly, and I believe I forwarded that on to you of what the suggestions is. There might be some other people that have some suggestions. I know that Kelly has gotten some information in there that she would like to share for you. So we have a number of different things to decide tonight. So we can make those decisions and then bring that ordinance back next time if you would like, or we can make that ordinance. You can adopt that ordinance and we'll just make it right. Your call.
And if I may, Denise mentioned I did leave a little bit of a handout for you this evening. You had asked me to please take a survey of other communities. I sent out a request through the city manager's listserv, so it hit every city manager, administrator, and some of the clerks who serve in that capacity in smaller communities. I didn't receive as many responses as we had hoped. I think some of that has to do with the holidays and the time of year I asked the question. We just wanted to make sure we were in line. We have not changed our permit fee in a number of years. It's been $2,500 for a very long time. And so what I have for you is, here are the cities that did respond to us. Their permit pricing, some of them are based on a division of nonprofits or for-profit. Some of them are based on the square footage of the facility, and some are just a flat rate. And then your third column there is how many permits they have just on an annual average.
Do I read that right? Derby doesn't have any?
They didn't tell me how many they have on average. However, when I spoke to the former city manager, Kathy Sexton, she typically said they have between 50 and 20. 15 and 20, excuse me.
And they pay
Yeah, 50 and 20, yeah. 15 and 20.
And they pay $8,060 per permit.
Yes. And then I know City of El Dorado responded a little bit late. I don't believe they're on here, but I believe it's El Dorado. They charge approximately $5,000 per stand, and then they collect that money, and that's what they use to, that $20,000 or however much they collect, that's what they use to put on their public annual fireworks display that the city sponsors. So it's kind of all over the board, and again, we just wanted to see what our peers were doing, so there's just a little bit more information for you.
I mean, it would appear our rates are kind of average. Yeah.
Seems so.
And what is the state law as far as dates that you can sell?
The state law allows you to sell from June 27th until July 5th.
And last year, we didn't start till the 29th?
I think we sold it.
I thought we started on the 27th.
I believe we did. I think we had a typo in the original ordinance, I'm sorry, and I think
Yeah,
we-
I did pull that off of the
Yeah, I'm
original
sorry. I think we
ordinance.
had
My
a
bad.
typo.
Yeah.
Going back to it. Yeah, it was, last
did
year you
start.
all lined up the sales, and I do not mean to speak on behalf of the chief, but in the past, speaking on behalf, sir, yeah, he's looking at me. But in the past, I think requests from our first responders has been, it is their preference if you line up whatever dates you choose, please line up dates of sale and discharge to be those same dates for, is that correct? Carolyn?
Correct.
I'm seeing head nods, okay.
So, yeah, so there isn't confusion. Or extra calls. That's the main thing, right? Well, it seems to me it would be prudent if we had the people present here that signed up to talk about the fireworks. We'd like to hear from you now before we decide this, as opposed to at the end of the meeting. I do have a question, though. Philip Glass, what did you sign up to speak about? You didn't fill that in.
Oh, I was just going to sign up about hotels here,
Okay.
that's all.
All right, so then there are two people that signed up to talk about the fireworks. Greg Yutzi, you are the first one. Please state your name and your address, please.
Yeah, Greg Yetzi, 311 Victoria Court. Thanks for hearing what I have to say tonight. And yes, I came to talk about the fireworks. I'm thanking you for, I thought I was going to be speaking after you made the decision, so thank you for listening to me now. I believe that I speak for a lot of people in Newton that thinks the 4th of July fireworks have gotten out of hand with the 4 days of sales and discharge. The litter that ends up in the street, in our yards, on our roofs, and on our vehicles, and then with a little bit of rain, it ends up in the storm sewers. Now, I do give credit to our neighborhood there in Stratford Place. They do a pretty good job of cleaning up the streets, but there's still a lot of small debris that is missed. And it's in our yards, on our roofs, and on our vehicles that then we have to clean up. And for 4 days, our community on the south side, I think this is probably about the same across the whole town. It sounds like a war zone. Many neighborhood pets, they become very anxious or traumatized by the noise. And I've heard that there are many dogs that escape their fences or homes trying to get away from the noise. You know, until 2 years ago, we had a dog. He would become so traumatized that he would huddle with us in the basement and just shivering in our laps the whole time that the fireworks were being discharged. Another point is our veterans with PTSD can be affected with anxiety, flashbacks, mental distress from all this noise. It sounds like the war zone that they were in. Is that how we want to honor our veterans? My last point is from my online research. The numbers vary, but what I've seen, that anywhere from 90 to 99% of all fireworks are manufactured and imported from China. This is the time when we want to buy American and buy less from China. I believe there are better ways to celebrate our country and patriotism than to have 4 days of noise, litter, stress for our pets, and mental anxiety for our veterans. I do understand a total ban on fireworks is probably not possible, so I'm asking you consider a reduction to only 1 day on Independence Day for sales and discharge of fireworks from 12 noon to 12 midnight. This would give us all a little reprieve. Please consider this. Thank you.
Thank you. Trinity Muth.
First off, thank you, commissioners, for having me. I understand that there's competing interest in the community. There are some that don't like fireworks or they don't want it to be shot as often as they are. Quite frankly, I came to the city 4 or 5 years ago and I told you guys my plan. The plan that I was going to be putting up an event center and I was going to be doing a firework building as well. I've invested a lot of money in this community, putting up the Sand Creek Event Center. I bought Dock 44, and ultimately, we're in the process of trying to make that a better location. We've fixed up part of it, and we'll continue to fix up part of it. You know, I looked at the Facebook post that was put out, and I saw some people wanted a year-round sale, some people wanted a day sale. Quite frankly, you got a lot of vendors that come into this community, a lot of vendors, and I'm local. And there are the ERTs. I know that's their fundraiser as well. And so at the end of the day, we are bringing tax revenue to this community. I can just tell you right off the bat, I paid close to $25,000 in property taxes for 2 buildings. And those 2 buildings help support this community. As far as the fireworks are concerned, I think last year I asked for the 8 days of sales. I'm not asking for July 5th. I think that after July 4th, it should be over. But I'm asking from June 27th through July 4th. I believe, I don't want to correct Ms. Dirksen, but I think it's on the Tuesday this next year.
Right.
Instead of Monday. You did. That's all right. And so, and I understand that the fire marshal may want to have it open as long as we're selling. I'll leave that up to your guys' decisions. But I can tell you that last year when you guys gave us the 8 days, I made a substantial investment in the community and my advertisement. We had significant increases in the 3 extra days that we had, significant. At the end of the day, I know that Commissioner McBroom stopped in and said hi, and I think he could attest to how busy we were. It's busier than any Walmart that you're going to find in the community. So I know a lot of people say, well, this is just a firework building. You're not a legitimate business, but we are. We're a legitimate business. There's, what do we have, 12 vendors last year? 12 vendors. And let's just be conservative for a second. I know the numbers are a lot higher than this, but if their sales are $50,000 a piece, right, with 12 of them, that's $600,000 minimum. And I suggest, or I would offer to you that the numbers are higher than that. I know that Great Bend, Kansas, they've got, they sell for 8 days as well. They actually sell for 9 days, and they will only shoot for, I think, 3 or 4 days. I know that we have a location in Mount Ridge. They sell for 8 days, and they will only shoot for 4 or 5 days. I understand and I appreciate, I'm in law enforcement myself. I'm a prosecutor. So I understand the police department, I understand the fire department and how difficult it can be sometimes. But let's look at the New Year's season this year. I can't sell. I understand that. The state law says I can't. They may change that at some point, and then you guys will be tasked with making that decision. But I can tell you that I sit at home. My phone rang hundreds of times. Hey, can we buy it? Are you open? No, we're not. Nobody sold in the state of Kansas. But yet we are blowing stuff up on New Year's. So just because you guys come in and you say, okay, well, we're going to regulate it and say you can't sell in Newton, Kansas. I live right outside of town in the country, and I was in bed by midnight, so I didn't see everything that was going on. but at the end of the day, I've heard that there was a lot of fireworks being shot. So if you sit here and say, okay, we're going to restrict this to one day, the community is already shooting. This community is, you can say that there's a lot, and I respect what you're saying. My dad was in the military for 30 years. I understand veterans. But to sit there and say that, okay, if we limit to one day, you're going to stop it? I mean, it's going to be a nightmare for the police department, because at the end of the day, people are going to go into Wichita. They're going to pick up their stuff. They're going to come over to my place in Mount Ridge like they did. I'll just tell you, and I'm not going to tell you my numbers, but I can tell you 3 numbers that stood out to me on the very first day. 3 different customers that were never in my store before. One came in and spent 13 grand. One came in and spent 4,500, and one came in and spent 2 grand. Now, I didn't talk to every customer that came in, but 2 of the 3, they go to Piedmont, Kansas. They go to Piedmont, Kansas, and they drive there opening day, and they buy their fireworks, and then they come back, and they shoot them in this community. And they said, well, we didn't even ever stop here before. And I'm like, well, why not? And they're like, well, because we always go on the first day it opens, and Piedmont has a great selection, great prices, but we'll start buying here. So just out of 3 customers right there, that's darn near $20,000 that came into this community that wasn't there before. So I completely respect both sides of the equation. I respect our military, but I think we have to be realistic here and know that whether we do this and we say, okay, we're going to do one day or we're going to do 8 days, the community is going to do what they're going to do. So I'm asking to give us 8 days sales, because I think that I've shown that I'm bringing business here. I got one guy that comes in from Winfield, Kansas, and brings his whole church group to our location. And you know what they do? They go over to Casa Fiesta because they love that Mexican restaurant, and they go eat, and then they come buy from me. And that's a whole church group. Now, I'm not saying I'm bringing in tons of people to go to the restaurants or stuff like that, but last I checked, every dollar helps. Every dollar helps. And I know this community can use the tax base. And I understand that, and I'll quit rambling. I know you guys are probably tired of listening to me, but at the end of the day, when we start taking money out of our community and we're not bringing in that tax dollars, then everybody's taxes go up. And then you guys are in here listening to that and saying, well, our tax base is up. I know one of the main issues is the water taxes and stuff like that. And so if we start eliminating tax income that's coming in, we're going to start eliminating people that want to do business here. So I'm asking the court, or not the court, sorry, I'm a prosecutor. I'm asking the commission, I'm asking the commissioners to please consider the 8 days of sales that you guys offered last year. If you want to regulate and restrict and only shoot for 3 or 4 or 5 days, I'll leave that up to you and the fire marshal and the police chief, but I appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, so do we have a couple things here? Do we want to talk about the permit price and if we want to change that or not? Is that the first question we should answer?
Sure, yeah. Yep, whatever pleases the
What do y'all
governing body.
think?
I'm good with it as it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Looks like we won't be voting on that.
That's okay.
What other, did I hear you say there were 2 or 3 things to
There's
answer?
also the performance bond, which is a bond, $1,000 currently is what we have, and that gets returned back to them after they have cleaned up the site. They have a certain amount of time in which to clean up the site, and if they don't have that, then they forfeit that over. In all the years of doing that, we have had one time that they have forfeited that over.
So it's working.
Yes.
And also, that is not a question I put in your little feedback survey here, but that is very common in every community.
I'm good with it as it is too.
Yep.
I am too.
Well, no vote there. All right. So then that comes down to days, and days of sale and days of discharge. What do you all think about that?
Well, I'll start on that one. Mr. Yetsey, I appreciate your comments. And Trinity, I appreciate yours too. For me personally, all the decisions I make can't always be about money when it comes to a situation like this, because then I look like I am choosing that over the concerns of citizens. And I feel very much like Mr. Yetsey. Those 8 days last year were nothing, I mean, they really, I feel like, just stole the entire meaning of celebrating the 4th of July. I recall the days when I grew up, and it was just on the 4th of July, and it had a lot of meaning. Now it's really nothing. It's just 1 day out of 8. So, Mr. Yetsey, I know you asked for just a day. Where I might be disagreeable on that is I would try to balance that with those who may be willing to accept 3 to 4 days, and so I would be willing to go from the 1st through the 4th. I think that's curbing it quite a bit. And yes, I know I have the dogs too, and I have to put up with all of that. I totally understand that. But it is, it's like a war zone. We have stuff in our yard, we have stuff on our roof, and on the streets. I see it a lot. It's just, the meaning has gone out of the celebration of the 4th of July. So for myself, I will be open to the 1st through the 4th.
I think I would support the 1st through the 4th for discharge. I'm kind of open on the sales side of the house.
Yeah, I had asked online, and I was, it would be fair to say that probably 8 out of 10 I did not do. I'm not, who's the guy that did our survey? I'm not him, so I didn't actually make a chart, but I would say probably 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10 comments were the 1st through the 4th as well. I do think that Friday night is Friday night, and I'm think that Friday night could be a fun night too for people to shoot. I appreciate all the other thing about it, but I do know that I don't know. I mean, I'm open to the sell date too if we want to try something different this year. I don't know that, have we ever, Denise, that you can think of, has we ever allowed sales outside of those discharge dates? Is it all, I mean, as far as you remember, has it always been?
Oh, no, we've had everything. So
Okay.
we, long ago, that's the joy of being here forever. Long ago, we used to have discharge dates were different than the sale dates. And that caused, I believe, the police department, and Chief was probably there at that same time, that caused a lot of problem for the police department because everybody was calling in because somebody was shooting off fireworks on a day that was not allowed to sell or to discharge.
Yeah.
So we could make that Aaron's problem to get a non-emergency number to do that reporting and a non-emergency way to post that.
Well, and I think, and the only reason I bring that up is, I mean, my family we would only buy on times we could sell because I don't want to listen to my kids at home saying, hey, Dad, can I go outside and shoot fireworks? And I have to say over and over again, no. But the reason I would say no is because I wouldn't want a ticket. I mean, so there's a lot of things that I don't do because it's against the law and I don't want the punishment for it, right? I mean, I like to drive fast, but I choose not to most of the time because I don't want a ticket for it. But I think the people that don't care about the ticket are going to drive down to Park City or whoever else allows the extra sales, and they're going to come back and shoot them anyways. But I do respect both of our chiefs enough that I'm not going to be opposed to it either if that's where we think we all need to end up. So there's a side of me that says I want to allow the tents to sell all 8 days because I believe that them being able to sell is important. But I do respect the fact that I'm also not working any of those nights too. So, and I would appreciate their concern for that. And I think Friday night I would be in favor of going the Friday through whatever, I mean, the 30th through the 4th, not the 5th. The 5th is off the table for me. I'll have to go to work the next day, but I don't think anybody needs to shoot on the 5th. You have plenty of time to shoot them beforehand.
So do we need to entertain a motion for the 1st through the 4th, or?
Stand by, technical difficulties. We're getting another microphone. Thank you very much.
So you also need to decide the times for sale and discharge. It has been in the past 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. on the days that are not the 4th. And on the 4th, you have had sale or discharge from 7 a.m. to midnight. You have had sale from 7 a.m. to like 10. We've done 8 before, so those are things that you need to consider also. I will say that Monday night, there will probably be a lot of people that will be staying up and discharging at that time too, past the 10 o'clock.
I would be in favor, regardless of the dates, of midnight only on Monday and 10 o'clock the other nights, because most people will have to go to work on the 5th. I mean, I know I will, so I'll probably be off that Monday and Tuesday, but I'll go to work on that Wednesday, so. It was either that or a weekend till midnight, but I think Friday or Saturday is too early to be shooting till midnight, so.
You do what you want to do. We'll make it work.
What are you looking to me for? I haven't heard from you yet. Well, I really would like to see them sell the whole 8 days. And it doesn't have anything to do with tax revenue. It's all about, a lot of them are not for profit, so if they could sell for those 8 days, but Chief, I guess we could all suit up and go around with fire extinguishers and on the non.
Can you deputize us for the night or whatever it's called and let us go out and, okay, keep that in mind.
But if you remember last year, we were going to do this, and then we decided to let them shoot that whole period of time, and I was regretful, actually, because there was a lot going on. So, but I don't have any gauge for how many. Let's say if we went, like Clint said, from Friday through the 4th. That would leave, I guess, the 27th, 28th, and the 29th. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the 29th, that they're not supposed to shoot, but they've got to sit there and just look at them for 3 days, just waiting for Friday.
Just like Christmas.
Yeah. Now, tell me how big a deal. I mean, I listened to you last year.
It can be a big deal, because it's, you hit it right on the head. It's like putting an unwrapped Christmas present in front of it. Now, you can't play with it for 3 more days.
Yeah.
But I understand that about the sales and all that kind of stuff. That's the only thing we were asking for, is because we're going to get complaints. As soon as they get them, they're going to fire them off.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. As you could tell, the 4th of July period of time is very popular in this community, so they like to shoot their fireworks off.
Yeah.
So that was the only thing. And on the 4th, if I can give you one, midnight may be a little late, that's up to you guys. But on the 4th, I think 10 o'clock, we're going to get a lot past 10 o'clock as well, because it doesn't really get dark until that 9 o'clock hour in the summertime. Just kind of keep that in mind too. So
It's fair.
Well, I personally wish, I agree, this community, there's something about fireworks that we have a love affair with. And I wish there would be a way that there would be more self-restraint, because I'd like to see the 8-day selling period too, for a variety of reasons, not just for the money. But I too, it gets a little long listening to it go off for 8 days. But anyways, do we want to entertain a motion, and who's willing to put one forth?
I will move that we sell and discharge from the 1st through the 4th, and setting those times.
I need to know what times you want.
Okay, so that 10 to 10, and then a 10 to midnight on the,
Okay, so
do the sales and discharge have to be exactly the same? They haven't been,
no, so what you have done in the past is sale and discharge from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. during the weeknight is what I'm going to use. Then on a weekend or whatever you have allowed, or on the 4th of July you have allowed discharge from 7 a.m. to midnight.
Right.
You have allowed sale from 7 a.m. to 8 or 10 o'clock p.m. It's whatever you want to decide with that, but that's what has been done in the past.
so we need to be specific in this motion.
Yes,
with
I
that
do need to know
information.
those dates and or those times.
So That's a Saturday, Sunday?
Saturday, Sunday is July 1st and 2nd, the 3rd is a Monday, and the 4th is Tuesday.
So 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Is that, because I'm looking here at what we have done for Saturday and Sunday?
That's what you're saying for sale.
Yes.
For sale, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. on the weekend on July 1st and 2nd?
Yeah, you can
You-
tell
you
I'm
d-
not really.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm following you with everything, so.
Yes, so, and then Monday, 10 a.m. to midnight, because the 4th is the next day, and
That's fine. And that's for
I-
sale and discharge both?
I guess, yeah.
And then Monday. Tuesday. And then what about Tuesday?
10 to 10? Because, you know, even if you put it at 10 at night, they're going to shoot way past 10. If you put it at midnight, they're going to shoot past midnight.
So Tuesday, you want 10 to 10 or 7 to 10? 7 a.m.? 'Cause
7 a.m. if they want to be up that early and do that. 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., I guess. I don't appreciate having to hear it that early, but it's just for a short period of time.
Okay, I will repeat that if that's
Okay.
okay. So we have a motion to sell and discharge from July 1st through the 4th, and the 1st and 2nd from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. for the sale and discharge. And on Monday, July 3rd, from 10 a.m. to midnight. And on, 10 a.m. to midnight for the discharge and sale. And then Tuesday from 10 a.m. or 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, there's been a motion. Is there a second?
Yes.
Going once, going twice. Okay, there is no second, so do we have another motion?
I would make an attempt at a motion.
Let's do it.
How much time do we have?
I will attempt to follow you.
Okay. For selling, 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th, 10 to 10.
29th and 30th, 10 to 10.
1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 7 to 12. And on the 4th, 7 to 10. On discharge, no discharge on the 27th, 28th, and 29th. On the 30th, 10 to 10, and then 7 to 12 on the 1st through the 4th.
Okay. Would you like me to repeat that?
And my
repeat
apologies
that.
to the chief.
Okay. So, sale allowed on the 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. On the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd from 7 a.m. to midnight for the sale, and on the 4th from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. No discharge on the 30th, or the 29th through the 30th, and then on the 1st through the
27 through the 29th.
27th, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
yes. No discharge on the 27th through the 30th, and then
The 30th would be 10 to 10.
29th?
27, 28, and 29.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, I do have that written down. On the 30th, from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., and then on the 1st through the 4th, from 7 a.m. to midnight.
To 10 p.m.
You heard 10 p.m. on the 4th?
Yeah.
No, I heard
Yeah.
midnight.
7 to
I
12
heard
on all.
midnight.
Yeah.
Midnight.
7 to 10 for the sell on the 4th.
Okay.
Yes,
7 to midnight for discharge.
yes.
Okay. Now that we have those clear, concise numbers, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there has been a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, passes on a 3-2 vote. Next item, and my condolences to you, Chief. You have all of our, you have all of our cell numbers in case you need backup. Okay.
We will send you a copy of that ordinance after we have all the blanks filled in so that you can review it.
I would encourage the people selling the fireworks to get bags that say, "Be courteous, think of others."
Yeah. Okay, next item, sale of real estate to Air Capital Industrial Park LLC. Chris?
I can cover this one. This relates back to an agenda item you had back in December, the sale of 8 acres of real property to Murdoch Properties. City Commission approved that sales agreement. Prior to closing, the purchaser asked that it go to a different entity. City staff, responsive to that request, has drafted a PSA termination agreement that'll cancel the prior agreement. It'll be a new PSA with the new buyer in place, and then also a resolution that authorizes the sale. Nothing in terms of, the substantive provisions of the sale. It's the same contact that would control both entities. We would stand for any questions, more of a procedural change than anything else.
Okay.
And if you're good with it, then one motion to approve the resolution, the new PSA, and the termination agreement would suffice.
Which covers A, B, and C.
That's right.
Okay.
I glanced over this, and I'll make a motion to approve A, B, and C of item 6.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that is passed. Next item is on Planning Commission, Fox Ridge. Suzanne?
Yes, Commissioners, there was a final plat for Fox Ridge Edition that would be just west of, or just east of Kansas Avenue, south of Country Club Drive, if you will. In that area, Fox Ridge Edition, the final plat has come through with the developer Brian Legale Homes is wanting to begin his development, and the Planning Commission approved the application for the final plat on their December 5th meeting, and it passed 6-0. As a condition of the plat, the developer needed to provide petitions for all of the public improvements. And so one of the items that you have before you this evening is, I think it's item C on your agenda, speaks to the petitions. And there are petitions for water extensions. The development is being split into 2 phases. Phase 1 being the east side of the drainage way, the opposite, Kelly, the east side of the drainage way. So,
I'm directionally challenged, so this
yeah,
side.
there you go, that area. And then phase 2 would be on the west side. But we have petitions for all of phase 1 items and phase 2 items, but we'll be bringing all of the funding resolutions and feasibility reports and all of that to you at your next meeting. But because this was a condition of the plat, because we had so many items and because there were some public improvements that we made a condition of the plat that included an intersection and some widening of the road on the 14th Street connector where Southeast 10th will tie into the connector. We ask that the petition be here for that and be approved with the plat itself. And originally, the developer was going to be asking for some funding from the city for the box culvert that would be crossing the drainage way. But the developers decided he would be paying for all of that if the city would be assisting with. There's a sanitary sewer tie-in that happens on the north end of the addition to an existing line, and we'll need to line the manhole and do some lining on one piece of sewer line, and upgrade an already aged lift station, if you will, that's there on the north side of Country Club that is on our list to be improved anyway. And so those would be taken care of by the city, and then the developer will take care of the box culvert. So if you would receive the petitions, and then we would bring the funding resolutions and all of the pieces to that, along with the engineering agreements to move forward with all of the Phase 1 improvements, meaning the water, the sewer, and the street extensions. And the box culvert will be a part of, it'll be spread to both Phases 1 and 2, because both phases would benefit from that box. So you're going to see more of this at the next meeting, but everything is ready for you to approve this evening. Any questions?
Were these were all individual homes, right? They weren't duplexes or anything?
There are
like-
some duplexes, but originally the developer had talked about apartment buildings, but I do not believe that's where he's headed with this. So there would be some duplexes, and the remainder would be single-family.
Okay.
And to your point, sir, it is already zoned appropriately for multifamily. And in multifamily, by our code, you can do single family as well.
Okay.
But we do expect, from what we have been told by the developer's representatives, that they're wanting to move forward quickly with the east half of the development.
And multifamily, is there a size limit to that in the way it's written, or is it, I mean, can they put in a 6th-floor apartment building in there, or is it?
Is it R2 or R3?
I believe this is R3. It has to be, R3.
So but there are height limitations. I believe it can't be more than, is it 35 feet?
Right,
I
but-
shouldn't speak out of turn.
But they don't, I would have to pull that for you, but
That's
that is,
okay. You
that's
need it.
not
That
where
is-
they're headed. They're
yeah.
putting in duplexes. That's,
Okay.
That is what the market is super
Yeah.
hot for right
And
now.
only ask that because I think there was, I think, some people that lived in the area that were concerned about larger multifamily versus duplexes. So,
Yeah.
okay, no, that's fine. Didn't know if I'd missed something along the way or.
No, and
catch up. It's
just
changed a couple
needs-
different times.
Yeah, it has, yeah. And
Yeah.
speaking off the cuff a little bit, if you look at the lot sizes, I'm not really seeing a lot in there that would be large enough for a big
Right.
complex.
So okay, so this is just not pertinent to this, but sorry to take everyone's time, but if we approve this, then they're limited to those lot sizes, correct? Those lot sizes can't change without coming back to the planning commission and then to us.
well,
Other than,
they could do a lot split. A lot
Administrative.
split is allowed administratively.
But not a lot
Not
merged.
smaller, but they can't
No,
go bigger.
just
Okay,
trying to answer
All
the
right.
question.
Yep, and they would
Yeah.
go back to the planning commission first and then back through you.
well, I'll make a motion that we receive the recommendation of the planning commission.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is passed. Next, we're going to consider the approval of the final plat.
I'll make a motion that we consider approval of the final plat.
I'll
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is passed. And then next on the petitions.
I move that we receive the petitions for water, sewer, street, and box culvert to serve Fox Ridge Edition.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is passed. Now we're going to talk about the Planning Commission, the full vision with Suzanne.
Yes, again, you have seen this one in a preliminary form, the full vision that is on Cow Palace Road, south of US 50, on the west side of Cow Palace. This is a new plat and they have already been annexed into the city, and they've been zoned. This is now the final plat that's coming to you. There's an existing building on the property. There are two separate tracks here that would be a part of that, and they're shown there with the red dots. Those two tracks are a part of this plat. The reason they have requested to come into the city and the reason they are platting is because in order for them to build, they're expanding their business, they have to be platted. And so the final plat is their last step of this process. And they have turned everything in that is needed for the final plat, and so staff would recommend that you go ahead and approve the plat. If you recall, at previous meeting, you approved sanitary sewer petition, and we're working and moving forward on design for the sanitary sewer that will be extended under US 50 and will serve this property.
I would move we receive the recommendation from the planning commission for full vision.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we to consider approval.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is passed. All right, so now we have citizens forum, and first gentleman on here is Ed Myers, wants to talk about the water rates. I would just like to, we welcome you to come up and say your comments. If you could limit it to about 3 minutes. You've spoken several other times about this, and we're going to have a full work session on this at the end of January with lots of comments from all around. So let's go.
Well,
go ahead,
I
Ed.
was intrigued with in your work session, you talked about public service. And, you know, public service to me, and I think it means to you, is what you can do to benefit the public. Now, raising water rates does not benefit the public, basically. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people in town about, well, citizens, the city's talking about raising water rates, and they say, they're crazy. Water rates are high enough already. How can they even think about that? So my point is, you need to think about the public, about what they think about raising water rates. And another thing, we spent $7,000 on this flash vote thing. Why wasn't a question asked, are you in favor of raising water rates? Will you include that in the next flash vote?
It could be. So the way the survey works is it's usually about a specific topic. And I say we collectively, the City Commission, the specific one they wanted to roll out first was the forms of government and how the mayor is elected. And then I know that we have an option to do multiple surveys for that $7,000 cost. It's for multiple surveys throughout the course of the year, but they will be topic specific. And I know the commission has talked about, I know they will continue to talk about that at their work session on the 31st, what types of questions that the gentleman who helps us form those questions appropriately, I believe that's going to be part of the topic of conversation at the work session.
Good, and you could give people options too on that too, on how they want if they want their water rates raised or not, and that may help with the questioning. But that is a relevant question. This is a very relevant question, and I think that I hope to see on the next flash vote. And the thing is that I don't care how you present it to the public and say, well, we had to raise water rates. We just had to do it. We didn't have any choice. You're not thinking in terms of what can I do to benefit the public. You're only, you know, to me, the staff gives you recommendations, and that's fine. But when they say you ought to jump, you shouldn't say, well, how high? You know, the point I want to give you today is that you need to think about how the public thinks. This is an issue of how the public thinks about their water rates. They're already saying they're too high, and they don't want them to go higher. I mean, all you'd have to do is drive around this town and see the dead lawns and the dead trees where people don't water because they can't afford to water. So if you want the city to look beautiful, you can't be raising water rates. Everything's going to start dying off because they can't afford it. I've already mentioned the fact in the past, when you raise a commodity, when you tax a commodity, eventually you're going to get less of it, and when you raise the rates, revenues are going to go down because people aren't going to use water. I mean, that's a basic economic principle that you need to consider. You're going to totally eliminate what you planned to do, was raise revenue. I want to mention also that every time people use water, and they use water every day, they take a shower, they flush their toilets, they do a lot of things they water their flowers, but every time they every time they use water, they're going to think about who raised my water rates. I mean, and the blame is going to be on you guys. People are going to rebel. They're already upset at the fact that you just raised their property tax at one of the highest rates that in the history of Newton.
Ed, you have about another minute left, and then we need to move on to the next gentleman.
So you need to think about the politics of the situation. When you run again, or if you decide to run again, is your platform going to be, I raised property taxes, the highest in the city has ever had raised. I raised your water rates. That is going to be my platform, and you will lose. Nobody is going to vote for you when you start raising taxes and water rates and people have nowhere else to go. They'll move. They'll move. There's Whitewater, there's Halstead, there's Heston. There's a lot of places to move that will be cheaper to live than Newton. One other last thing. I'm going to be interviewed tomorrow on Harvey County Digital. My interview is going to be on there, and you can also see it on YouTube. And I talked to Mr. Gormley and Mr. Ortiz. They would be like to have one of you guys to be interviewed to tell your story of why you think water rates should be raised. And I'm sure that one of you would enjoy doing that making that explanation of why you think water rates should be raised. And that's Harvey County Digital on Facebook and YouTube. I'll be on there tomorrow if you want to check it out.
Thank you. The next gentleman that we have is Philip Glass. And Philip, come on up.
Well, normally I would come in here and holler that we still haven't got prayer before the meeting.
Nope. Sure don't.
And so now I'm going to transition to another thing. Who monitors our motels we got in Newton? I've had family come in August from a brother-in-law's funeral from England, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado. They come to the Newton motels out here. They go in and check in the rooms. Them things are filthy. They say like they've never even cleaned them up from the last person that lived in them. So they had to leave the motels. They checked all the different ones. Said this one didn't work, so they got another one, and so they left. Went to Wichita, got motel rooms. Went to McPherson, got hotel rooms. They want to know who's monitoring what we're doing in Newton at our motels. And it repeated the same thing again, just New Year's Eve, because that's when we had our Christmas, belated Christmas. And they came in, everything had never changed. So they're just kind of curious, who's monitoring our hotels or motels and their sanitation or their where they're being taken? Is there anybody that does that?
Well, it is private enterprise. I know there are certain, maybe Kelly or Suzanne, either one of you can speak to this, but as a private entity, there's only so much that the city can do.
Yeah, correct. And so the authority that the city has would extend mostly to unsafe conditions, meaning like if there were holes in the floors or missing windows, we have jurisdiction over those types of things. Unfortunately, the city does not at this time have jurisdiction over things like when the rooms are cleaned. However, there is some statutory authority at the Harvey County Health Department. I know we have had some people contact them in the past when they had similar concerns, whether it was at a hotel or a dining establishment and those kinds of things. And KDHE does have at the state some limited authority for those kinds of things as well. But if you would be interested in reporting those issues to the health department, they would need to know specific locations like the name and address of the hotel and the rooms. And so if your family or friends would be willing to do that, they could contact the health department. If it's something they cannot help with, they, I know, can escalate that to the state at KDHE to assist you. I know a challenge we've had with hotels, recently we've had this discussion, is we're having difficulty finding anyone that's even got rooms available because most of the hotels are booked with long-term stays, especially this time of year. So we can't afford, in my opinion, to have rooms that are available but are unsanitary and are not desirable for those tenants because they're few and far between. Is that helpful to you, sir?
Yeah, okay, I'll
Thank
do
you.
that. And
Thank
then
you,
also,
appreciate it.
about raising the water rates, because the way they're going to have a flush, to what I read in the outfit, that those people that flush more often will be charged more than people that aren't. So I thought, well, it'd be best if you're constipated, you won't have to pay so much. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip. All right, let's,
I apologize, I didn't realize you needed to sign up in order to speak.
step up and state your name and your address, if you could, please.
Melissa McMahon, 603 Autumn Court. I just, we moved up here from Oklahoma last year, and so we're kind of used to the way things are done down there. And Newton is kind of an expensive place to live, but we did not want to live in Wichita where my husband works. He just doesn't like to work and live in the same jungle. So as far as the freedom and the wonderful things that we have by living in Newton, absolutely we love them. It is expensive. It is incredibly expensive. When we got our first water bill, I was rather shocked. It was more than double what we had normally paid for water, sewer, trash combinations anywhere else we'd ever lived. So I do have a concern about raising that because I just kind of feel like, and especially in these times right now, because everything else has gone up so much that your cost of living is just gone up, and our incomes have basically stayed the same. And then to have even more things added onto it. Now, if there's need later on to consider raising water, when the economy gets better, I would say it would be more appropriate to look at something like that then. But right now, while people are struggling, I think it's really not a good time. But that's what I have to say about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There may have been one. Did you have something you want to say? Oh,
All right, let's go around the horn. Commissioner Cry.
I don't have anything.
Thank you to our first responders for taking time to be here. Our staff, the city staff, you take good care of the commission. You are the professionals and you provide us with the information that we need so that we can make the very best decisions. And then last but certainly not least, I just want to say a word that I think we all know that I was just thinking back to the days when Commissioner Glenn Davis served on this commission. And it's been, I think, 3 years now since he was a part of this, but I know that he sought to serve well. He had passion for the community, for the citizens. He sought to have good common sense, and he loved what he was doing. So I just want to say a shout out for Glenn that he's missed. So.
No, sir.
Two quick things. In case you missed it, yesterday was National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. So make sure you thank our blue bloods when you see them. And we typically do a proclamation for National Police Week in May, and also there is typically also a recognition of our fire and EMS public safety officials. So secondarily, this coming Monday, remember it is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and so the city will be closed. That will affect trash schedules. We have already published that, but we will continue to remind individuals that if you are normally a Monday pickup, we will be picking up Tuesday, Wednesday. So, thank you.
I just wanted to, I guess, talk about something that was presented this week, but the flag was honored essentially by the National Flag Association. I can't remember the exact name of it. It had an interesting name, but yeah, Vexology Group. I'm sorry, what was that, Adam? Okay. But it was honored as one of the top 25 in the country for its design and its beauty. So just a cool thing for Newton to be honored in that group. As I look through all the 25 flags that were nominated, you could go to the website and you could see those. I had to admit that Newton was among the top of those.
That was really neat to see, and it was also very a stark reality when they also listed the 25 worst, and the first thing they said
didn't
was,
see that.
don't put words on your flag, and every one of those flags that was on that unfortunate list had words on it, so I have nothing.
I didn't see that list.
It was the second half.
To go along with the analogy, a picture paints it paints 1,000 words or something to that effect. But, and I would like to echo what Commissioner Valentine said about Glenn Davis. I served with him for a number of years, and he was very passionate. And I think I mentioned this in describing my experiences with him. And of course, I got to know Glenn and Becky way back when my son was 7 years old, and we started a baseball team, and Ben, his son, and I, and our son played. I coached them in baseball and I think basketball too. But anyways, I've known Glenn a long time. He was very passionate about those with less resources and wanting to protect their rights, wanting to stand up for them, and I thought he did a very good job with that. And you know, whether you liked him or didn't like him, I had to admire what he stood for and how he conducted himself in that respect. So, so I do want to pay my respects to him.
Thank
I think that is very good. And with that, we are adjourned.